I never thought success could feel like a death sentence. But as I stood in my downtown office, holding the contract that would change my life forever, I had no idea that in less than an hour, I'd be fighting for my life in a hospital bed, abandoned by the very people who were supposed to love me most. My name is Jennifer Martinez, and this is the story of how a $10 million contract nearly killed me, and how my family's betrayal led to the most satisfying moment of justice I've ever witnessed. Let me start with the moment everything went wrong. Picture this. It's 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I'm standing in the glass-walled conference room of Technovision Industries, my hands slightly trembling as I sign my name on the most important document of my career. $10 million. That's what my software innovation was worth to them. $10 million over 3 years plus royalties. I'd worked for this moment for 8 years. 8 years of 18-hour days, failed prototypes, rejection letters, and maxed out credit cards. 8 years of my family telling me I was wasting my time, that I should get a real job, that my dreams were too big for someone like me. But now, holding this contract, I felt vindicated. I felt proud. I felt loved. No, that's not right. I felt like I finally had something worthy of their love. You see, that was my first mistake. I thought their love was something I had to earn. The drive home felt like floating. I called my sister Patricia 3 times, but she didn't answer. I wanted to surprise them. I wanted to see their faces when I told them that their failure of a daughter had just become a millionaire. I pulled into the driveway of our family home. Yes, at 30, I still lived with my parents. Not because I couldn't afford my own place, but because every time I mentioned moving out, Mom would get that hurt look in her eyes, and Dad would start talking about family values and how successful people don't abandon their families. The front door was unlocked, as always. I could hear voices in the kitchen. Patricia, Mom, Dad, and my older brother Robert Jr. Perfect. The whole family was here for my big announcement. "Hey everyone," I called out, practically bouncing through the doorway. Guess what just happened? The conversation stopped. 4 pairs of eyes turned to me, and I noticed something I'd seen 1,000 times before, but never really acknowledged. Annoyance. Pure, undisguised annoyance. "What now, Jennifer?" Patricia sighed, not even looking up from her phone. "Did you finally get a job interview somewhere?" I felt the first prick of deflation, but I pushed through it. "Better than that. I just signed a contract, a big one." "How big?" Dad asked, his tone suggesting he expected to be disappointed. $10 million. Silence, complete silence, but not the good kind. Not the stunned, happy silence I'd imagined. This was cold, heavy, wrong. Patricia's head snapped up. "What did you just say?" "I said $10 million. Technovision Industries just bought my software platform. We're rich." "Well, I'm rich, but you know what I mean." "No, I don't know what you mean." Patricia stood up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. "What exactly are you trying to say, Jennifer?" The tone of her voice made my stomach clench. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. "I'm trying to say that I did it. I actually did it. All those years everyone said I was wasting my time. All those lectures about being practical. Oh, here we go." Robert Jr. rolled his eyes. "Little Miss Perfect strikes again." I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm just excited. I thought you'd be happy for me." "Happy?" Patricia laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "You want us to be happy that you're throwing your success in our faces again?" I'm not throwing anything in anyone's face. I'm sharing good news with my family. No, you're bragging, just like you always do. Patricia's voice was getting louder, sharper. Remember when you got into college, you couldn't shut up about your scholarship. Remember when you got your first job? You acted like you were better than all of us. That's not true, isn't it? You walk around here like you're so much smarter than everyone else, like we're all just holding you back. I looked around the room desperately. Mom sat at the table, arms crossed, saying nothing. Dad was staring at his hands. Robert Jr. was nodding along with Patricia like she was making perfect sense. That's not how I feel at all, I said, my voice getting smaller. I love you guys. I just wanted to share. Share what? How much better you are than us? How you're the only one in this family worth anything. Patricia, stop. No, you stop. She was standing now, moving toward me. I am so sick of you and your constant need for attention. You think $10 million makes you special? I never said that. You didn't have to say it. It's written all over your face. Little Jennifer, the genius. Little Jennifer, the success story. Little Jennifer, who's too good for her own family. That's not true. I was backing toward the stairs now, but Patricia kept advancing. I've never thought that. Really? Then why are you still here? If you're so successful, why haven't you moved out? Why are you still living off Mom and Dad? I'm not living off them. I pay rent. I buy groceries. You pay $300 a month for a room that would cost you $3,000 anywhere else. You're a charity case, Jennifer. A 30-year-old charity case who thinks she's better than everyone. The words hit me like physical blows. I felt tears starting to form, and I hated myself for it. This was supposed to be the best day of my life. I don't think I'm better than anyone, I whispered. Yes, you do. You always have. Ever since we were kids, you've looked down on us, the smart one, the talented one, the special one. Patricia, please. What? Please what? Please pretend to be happy for you. Please act like we don't see how you look at us. Please ignore the fact that you've spent your entire adult life making us feel worthless. I've never made you feel worthless. Haven't you? Every achievement, every success, every little victory you parade in front of us is just another reminder that we're not good enough, that we're not you. I was at the bottom of the stairs now, tears flowing freely. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. I love you, I said desperately. You're my sister. I love all of you. No, you don't. You love the idea of us worshiping you. You love having an audience for your success story. But you don't love us. You don't even see us. That's not true. It is true, and I am done pretending otherwise. I am done being your supporting cast. I am done being the failure sister who makes you look good. Patricia, you're not a failure. Don't! Her voice was a roar now. Don't you dare stand there and patronize me. Don't you dare give me your pity. She was close enough now that I could see the rage in her eyes. Real rage. The kind that comes from years of something building up inside. I'm not... You know what, Jennifer? I hope your $10 million makes you happy. I hope it keeps you warm at night. Because that's all you're going to have. What do you mean? I mean, maybe it's time you learned what it feels like to be alone. Maybe it's time you learned what it feels like to not have everything handed to you on a silver platter. Nothing was handed to me. I worked for this. Did you? Or did you just get lucky? because from where I'm standing, it looks like you stumbled into something you don't deserve. I do deserve this. The words came out louder than I intended. I worked 18 hours a day for 8 years. I sacrificed everything. You sacrificed nothing. You lived here rent-free, eating Mom's food, using Dad's car. I paid my share. Your share. Patricia laughed again, that cold, cruel sound. Your share would be about $2,000 a month, not $300. Your share would be groceries for 4 people, not just yourself. Your share would be actually contributing to this family instead of just taking from it. The unfairness of it hit me like a physical blow. I'd always contributed. I'd always helped. I'd paid for family vacations, car repairs, medical bills that insurance didn't cover. I'd been the family ATM for years, and now she was acting like I was some kind of freeloader. That's not fair, I said quietly. Fair? Patricia's voice went dangerously quiet. You want to talk about fair? Fair would be you showing some gratitude for everything this family has done for you. Fair would be you acknowledging that you wouldn't be where you are without us supporting you. I do acknowledge that. No, you don't. You act like you did it all by yourself, like we were just obstacles you had to overcome. I never said that. You don't have to say it, Jennifer. It's in everything you do. The way you talk about your work, like it's so much more important than anything we do. The way you act like our problems are beneath you. The way you treat this house like a hotel and us like your personal staff. I don't treat you like staff. Don't you? When was the last time you cleaned something without being asked? When was the last time you cooked dinner for the family? When was the last time you did anything for any of us that didn't benefit you somehow? I opened my mouth to answer and realized I couldn't. Not because she was right, but because she was so wrong that I didn't know where to start defending myself. I bought Dad's medication last month when his insurance was being difficult, I said finally. Because you could afford it and we couldn't. That's not generosity, Jennifer. That's showing off. I was helping. You were making a point. Look at me. I have money and you don't. Look at me. I can solve your problems. Look at me. I'm the successful one. That's not why I did it, isn't it? Then why didn't you just quietly pay for it? Why did you have to make such a big deal about going to the pharmacy yourself? Why did you have to tell everyone at Sunday dinner how much it cost and how easy it was for you to handle? I felt like I was drowning. Every word she said was a weight pulling me down, and I couldn't find solid ground anywhere. I was just trying to help, I whispered. No, you were trying to prove a point, just like you're doing now with your $10 million contract. You're not sharing good news, Jennifer. You're rubbing our faces in your success. I'm not. Yes, you are, and I am sick of it. The next few seconds happened in slow motion. Patricia's hand came up and connected with my shoulder. Not hard, just a push, but I was already backing away, already off balance from trying to get away from her anger. My foot missed the first step. I felt myself falling backward, my arms windmilling uselessly as I tried to catch myself on the banister. The world tilted, spun, and then exploded into pain as the back of my head connected with the sharp corner of the wooden step. The last thing I remember, before everything went black, was the sound of silence. Not concern, not panic, not someone calling 911, just silence. When consciousness crept back in, it came in fragments, white ceiling tiles, the smell of disinfectant, the steady beep of machines. My head felt like someone had split it open with an axe, and my vision kept going in and out of focus. "Nurse," I tried to call out, but my voice was barely a whisper. Footsteps approached, and a kind face appeared above me. "Oh good, you're awake. I'm Sandra, your nurse. How are you feeling, sweetheart?" My head. I tried to lift my hand to touch it, but even that small movement sent waves of nausea through me. "You have a severe concussion and some swelling. You've been unconscious for almost 18 hours. Do you remember what happened?" 18 hours? The memory came flooding back. Patricia's rage, the argument, the fall. My sister? Is my family here? Something flickered across Sandra's face. "They were here when the ambulance brought you in. They stayed for a few hours, but..." She trailed off. "But what?" "They left yesterday evening. They said they'd check in today, but..." Another pause. "Honey, visiting hours started at 8 this morning. It's almost 2 p.m. now." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "They haven't come back?" "No, sweetheart, I'm sorry." The machines around me seemed to beep louder as my heart rate picked up. My family had brought me to the hospital and then just left for almost 20 hours? Could you call them for me? Maybe they don't know I'm awake." Sandra's expression was carefully neutral, the look of someone who'd seen too many families disappoint their loved ones. "Of course. Do you have their numbers?" I gave her my parents' home phone and Patricia's cell number. She stepped out of the room to make the calls, and I lay there trying to make sense of what had happened. We'd had fights before, sure, but this felt different. The coldness in Patricia's voice, the things she'd said, and now they weren't even here. Sandra came back a few minutes later, and I could tell from her face that the news wasn't good. "I spoke to your mother," she said gently. "She said they're glad you're awake and recovering." "That's it?" "She said they have things to handle at home today, but they'll try to visit this evening." Try to visit? I had a brain injury. I'd been unconscious for 18 hours, and they'd try to visit. "Did you tell her I was awake? Did you tell her I was asking for them?" "Yes, sweetheart. I told her everything." The cold feeling in my stomach spread outward. This wasn't right. This wasn't how families were supposed to act when someone got hurt. "Sandra," I said quietly, "what did they say when they brought me in? When the paramedics came?" She hesitated, and I knew I wasn't going to like the answer. "Honey, maybe you should focus on getting better. Please, I need to know." She sighed and sat down in the chair next to my bed. "The paramedics said your family seemed upset. About the accident, of course, but also about the argument that led to it." "What do you mean?" "According to the report, your sister told the paramedics that you had fallen while you were having some kind of episode, that you were acting erratically and she was trying to calm you down." "That's not what happened." "I know, sweetheart. Head injuries don't cause the kind of behavior she described, and the pattern of your injury is consistent with a backward fall, not someone having a seizure or episode. Did you tell them that?" "It's not my place to contradict family members about what happened, but I did note the inconsistencies in your chart." I closed my eyes and tried to process this. Patricia had lied to the paramedics. She'd made it sound like I was the problem, like I was having some kind of breakdown. "There's something else," Sandra said softly. I opened my eyes. When they were getting ready to leave yesterday, I overheard part of a conversation between your parents and your sister. They were talking about how this might teach you some kind of lesson. What kind of lesson? About being more humble, I think was the word they used. The pain in my head suddenly seemed like nothing compared to the pain in my chest. They thought this was a lesson. They thought I deserved this. I need to call them myself, I said. Could you bring me a phone? Are you sure you're up for that? You should really be resting. Please. She brought me the room phone, and with shaking hands, I dialed my parents' number. It rang 4 times before Mom answered. Hello? Mom, it's Jennifer. I'm awake. Oh, Jennifer, how are you feeling? The casualness of her tone was like a slap. I was calling from a hospital bed with a brain injury, and she sounded like I was calling to chat about the weather. I'm confused, and my head really hurts. The doctor says I have a concussion. Well, that's not surprising. You took quite a tumble. A tumble, like I'd tripped over a sidewalk crack. Mom, I was hoping you could come visit today. I'm really scared, and I don't understand everything the doctors are telling me. Oh, honey, today's not good. Your father has a golf game, and I promised Mrs. Henderson I'd help her with her garden. Golf. Gardening. While their daughter was in the hospital with a brain injury. Could you come after? Visiting hours go until 8? We'll see how the day goes. You know how these things are. I didn't know how these things were. I'd never been abandoned in a hospital before. Mom, what happened yesterday? Why did Patricia push me? Push you, Jennifer, honey? You fell down the stairs. Patricia told us you were acting very strange, talking loudly and waving your arms around. She was trying to help you calm down when you lost your balance. That's not what happened. Sweetheart, you have a head injury. It's not unusual for there to be some confusion about events leading up to an accident. She was gaslighting me. My own mother was gaslighting me while I lay in a hospital bed. I remember exactly what happened. We were arguing about my contract. Your contract? The $10 million contract I signed yesterday. The one I came home to tell you about. There was a pause. Jennifer, you didn't sign any contract yesterday. You came home from work upset about something and started an argument with Patricia. My blood went cold. What are you talking about? Honey, I think the head injury is affecting your memory more than you realize. Maybe you should talk to your doctor about this. Mom, I have the contract. It's in my briefcase. I can show you. Your briefcase is here, sweetheart. We brought it home from your car. There's no contract in it. The room started spinning, and it had nothing to do with my concussion. What do you mean there's no contract? I mean there's no contract. Just your usual work papers and some notebooks with your little drawings and ideas. Those aren't little drawings, they're technical specifications for the software platform I sold. Jennifer, please, you need to rest and focus on getting better. When you're feeling more like yourself, we'll sit down and talk about getting you some help. Help with what? This fantasy life you've been living, these delusions about being some kind of business success. It's not healthy, honey. I felt like I was falling down the stairs all over again, except this time there was no bottom. I'm not delusional. I signed a contract yesterday for $10 million with Technovision Industries. I looked up Technovision Industries this morning, Jennifer. It's a real company, but they've never heard of you. That's impossible. I called them myself. Spoke to someone in their legal department. They have no record of meeting with you, let alone signing any contract. The phone slipped from my numb fingers. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. Sandra appeared at my side, picking up the phone. Mrs. Martinez, this is Sandra, Jennifer's nurse. Yes, she seems agitated. No, that's normal after a head injury. I understand. Yes, I'll talk to the doctor about sedation if necessary. She hung up and looked at me with pity. Honey, your mom is worried about you. She says you've been having some problems with reality lately. I'm not having problems with reality. I signed a contract. I have copies. I have emails. I tried to sit up, and the room tilted dangerously. Easy, easy. You need to stay calm. Head injuries can cause all kinds of confusion and false memories. They're not false memories. But even as I said it, doubt crept in. My head was pounding, my vision kept going blurry, and I felt like I was living in a nightmare. What if I was wrong? What if the injury was worse than I thought? What if I had imagined the whole thing? No, I knew what had happened. I knew what I'd signed. I knew why Patricia had been so angry. Sandra, I need you to call Technovision Industries. Ask for Christopher Davis, the CEO. Tell him Jennifer Martinez needs to speak with him urgently. Sweetheart, please, just make the call. If they don't know who I am, then I'll know I'm confused. But if they do, then something else is going on here. Sandra looked at me for a long moment, then sighed. Okay, I'll make the call, but if they don't know you, will you promise to focus on getting better and stop worrying about this? Yes, I promise. She left the room again, and I lay there staring at the ceiling, praying that I wasn't losing my mind. The minutes stretched on forever until finally Sandra came back. Her expression was carefully neutral again. Well, I asked. I spoke to Mr. Davis's assistant. She put me through to him directly when I mentioned your name. My heart leapt. And? He's very concerned about you. He said to tell you that he hopes you feel better soon and that the legal department will be in touch once you've recovered. See? I told you. Jennifer. Sandra's voice was gentle but firm. He also said that yesterday's signing went perfectly and that he's looking forward to working with you. But he seemed confused when I told him you were in the hospital. He said you seemed fine when you left the office yesterday afternoon. Because I was fine when I left the office, I got hurt at home. He asked if your family knew about your accident. When I said yes, he seemed surprised. He said he'd assumed they were celebrating with you. Celebrating, that's what normal families would have been doing. Did he say anything else? He asked if there was anything he could do to help. I told him you were getting excellent care, but he insisted on leaving his personal number in case you needed anything. She handed me a slip of paper with a phone number written on it. He also said something strange, Sandra continued. He said to tell you that if anyone questions the validity of your contract, you should refer them to Alexander Thompson in the legal department. He said Mr. Thompson has copies of everything and would be happy to verify the details. Alexander Thompson. Even through the haze of pain and confusion, that name sent a little thrill through me. He was the lawyer who'd handled the contract negotiations, the one who'd told me I had grounds for a lawsuit if anyone tried to interfere with the deal. Sandra, I need you to do one more thing for me. What's that, honey? I need you to call Alexander Thompson at Technovision Industries. Tell him what my family said about there being no contract. Tell him they've been claiming I'm delusional. Jennifer, please, this is important. Something's not right here, and I need to know what's going on." Sandra looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, but after this, you need to rest. All this stress isn't good for your recovery." She left again, and this time when she came back, her expression was different. Concerned in a way that had nothing to do with my medical condition. "What did he say?" I asked. "He said he's been trying to reach you since yesterday evening. He said there were some irregularities with your emergency contact information that he needed to discuss with you." "What kind of irregularities?" "Someone called his office yesterday, claiming to be your sister. They said you'd been in an accident and were unconscious, and they needed to discuss some urgent matters related to your contract." My blood turned to ice. What did they discuss? "He wouldn't give me details over the phone, but he said he needs to speak with you directly as soon as possible. He's on his way to the hospital now." Patricia had called my lawyer. While I was unconscious, my sister had somehow gotten in touch with the legal team handling my contract. "Sandra, I think my family is trying to steal my contract." "Honey, that sounds a little paranoid." "No, listen to me. They claim there is no contract, right? They say they called Technovision and the company never heard of me. But we just proved that's a lie, because both Christopher Davis and Alexander Thompson know exactly who I am and what I signed." Sandra's expression shifted as she processed this. "You think they're lying about calling the company?" "I think they did call, but they didn't identify themselves as my family. I think they called pretending to be someone else, maybe trying to get information about the contract. And when that didn't work, Patricia called my lawyer directly." "But why would they do that?" "Because they want to take it away from me. They want to make me think I'm crazy so they can somehow get control of the contract themselves." It sounded insane, even as I said it, but it was the only explanation that made sense. My family's coldness, their lies about the contract, Patricia's call to my lawyer while I was unconscious, it all added up to one terrifying conclusion. The people who were supposed to love me most were trying to steal the biggest success of my life, while I lay helpless in a hospital bed, and they were just getting started. Alexander Thompson arrived at the hospital like a man on a mission. Tall, impeccably dressed despite the late hour, with the kind of sharp intelligence in his eyes that made me understand why Technovision kept him on retainer. When he walked into my hospital room, I felt the first spark of hope I'd had since waking up. "Miss Martinez," he said, extending his hand. "I'm very glad to see you're awake and coherent. We have some serious matters to discuss." Sandra had stayed in the room at my request. I wanted a witness to whatever Alexander was about to tell me. He didn't seem to mind her presence. "First, let me say that your contract with Technovision Industries is absolutely legitimate and fully enforceable. I have copies of everything in my briefcase, including the signed originals and all supporting documentation." The relief was so intense I started crying. My family said there was no contract. They said Technovision had never heard of me. Alexander's jaw tightened. "That's interesting because someone claiming to be your sister called my office yesterday evening with a very different story. She said you'd been in an accident and were in a coma, and she needed to discuss urgent family matters related to your business affairs. What did you tell her?" "I told her that I couldn't discuss client matters with anyone but you, regardless of family relationships." She became quite insistent, claimed she had power of attorney to handle your affairs while you were incapacitated. I never gave anyone power of attorney. I know, I told her she'd need to provide legal documentation of such authority. She said she'd get back to me with the proper paperwork. My head was spinning, and not just from the concussion. Alexander, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Of course. Is it possible for someone to forge a power of attorney document? Could my family somehow get legal control of my contract while I'm in the hospital? Alexander's expression grew very serious. Theoretically, yes. If someone had access to your personal information, your signature, and the right legal connections, they could create fraudulent documents. It would be illegal, but it could be done. How would I protect myself? Well, the first step is what I'm doing right now, verifying your mental competency and getting your direct instructions on how to proceed. The second step would be to ensure you have proper legal protection in place. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. I took the liberty of bringing some documents that might be relevant to your situation. Along with your contract, I have security footage from our office building that shows you signing the agreement yesterday afternoon. I also have email chains between you and our technical team dating back 6 months, showing the development of this deal. Why would you bring all of that to a hospital visit? Because, Miss Martinez, in my experience, when family members start making unusual inquiries about large sums of money while someone is incapacitated, it's usually not a coincidence. Sandra spoke up for the first time. Are you saying you think her family is trying to steal her contract? I'm saying that certain patterns of behavior suggest the possibility of financial exploitation, and given the amounts involved in Miss Martinez's contract, it would be worth taking precautions. What kind of precautions? Alexander looked directly at me. I'd recommend that we document everything that's happened since your accident, establish a clear timeline of events, and put legal safeguards in place to protect your interests. I'd also recommend that we consider whether you want to involve law enforcement. Law enforcement. Financial exploitation of vulnerable adults is a crime, Miss Martinez. If your family is attempting to gain control of your assets through fraudulent means while you're incapacitated, that's a serious felony. The room fell silent except for the steady beeping of my monitors. The idea of involving police, of treating my family as criminals, felt surreal, but the evidence was mounting. What would that involve? We'd start by filing a protective order to ensure that no one can make legal or financial decisions on your behalf without proper court authorization. We'd also document the inconsistencies in their story about your contract and their attempts to contact my office. And if they really are trying to steal from me, then we'd build a case for fraud, conspiracy, and potentially elder abuse statutes, depending on how the exploitation is structured. I looked at Sandra, who nodded encouragingly. Honey, if what you're telling me is true, you need to protect yourself. Head injury or not, you deserve to have people looking out for your interests. Okay, I said finally. Let's do it. Let's document everything and put the protections in place. Alexander smiled grimly. Good. Now there's one more thing you should know. Christopher Davis, our CEO, is personally invested in this situation. When I called to update him about your sister's call, he became very concerned about your welfare. Concerned how? concerned enough that he's cleared his schedule for the rest of the week to make sure you have whatever support you need. He said something about how the best business relationships are built on mutual respect and protection. As if summoned by our conversation, there was a knock at the door. Sandra went to answer it, and I heard a familiar voice asking permission to enter. Christopher Davis stepped into the room, and I was struck again by the quiet authority he carried. Mid-50s, silver hair, expensive suit, but with kind eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "Miss Martinez," he said warmly, "I'm so sorry to hear about your accident. How are you feeling?" "Better now that Alexander's here to explain what's been happening." Christopher's expression grew serious. "Alexander briefed me on the situation during his drive over. I want you to know that Technovision Industries stands fully behind our contract with you and will provide whatever legal support is necessary to protect your interests." "That's very generous, but I don't want to involve your company in my family drama." "Miss Martinez, when someone tries to interfere with our business relationships, through fraudulent means, it becomes our business. We take these matters very seriously." Alexander pulled out a digital recorder. "With your permission, I'd like to record a statement from you about everything that's happened since you left our office yesterday. We need a clear timeline for legal purposes." For the next hour, I walked them through every detail I could remember. The contract signing, my excitement driving home, the argument with Patricia, her rage about my success, the fall down the stairs, waking up alone in the hospital, my family's lies about the contract, and Patricia's call to Alexander's office. When I finished, both men looked grim. "Miss Martinez," Christopher said quietly, "what you're describing is a systematic attempt to gaslight you while you're vulnerable, combined with potential fraud. This isn't just family drama, this is criminal behavior." "But they're my family. Family members commit crimes too," Alexander said bluntly. "And often the victims are reluctant to prosecute because of emotional ties, but that doesn't make the crimes less serious. What happens next?" "Next, we wait," Alexander said. "If your sister really is pursuing fraudulent power of attorney documents, she'll contact my office again within the next day or two. When she does, we'll be ready." "Ready how?" Christopher smiled, and there was something predatory in it. "Ready with evidence, witnesses, and legal documentation that will make it very clear that any attempt to interfere with your contract will result in immediate criminal prosecution." They left me with copies of everything: the contract, the security footage, the email chains, and detailed notes about Patricia's call to Alexander's office. I spent the rest of the evening reading through it all, marveling at how thorough they'd been. But I also spent time thinking about what came next. If my family really was trying to steal from me, confronting them would change everything forever. There would be no going back from accusing them of fraud. No pretending it was all a misunderstanding. The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. Patricia walked into my room around 10 a.m., carrying flowers and wearing the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Hey, Jen," she said brightly. "How are you feeling? I brought these from Mom's garden." I studied her face, looking for any sign of the rage I'd seen 2 days ago. It was gone, replaced by a performance of sisterly concern that felt almost insulting in its obviousness. "I'm doing better," I said carefully. "My head still hurts, but the doctors say that's normal." "Good, good. Listen, I wanted to apologize for the argument we had before your accident. I was stressed about some things at work, and I took it out on you. That wasn't fair. What argument? Patricia's smile flickered slightly. The argument we had right before you fell, don't you remember? We were talking about your job situation, and I got a little harsh about you needing to be more realistic about your career prospects. She was rewriting history in real time. According to her version, we'd been arguing about my career prospects, not about my $10 million contract. I remember us discussing a contract I'd signed, I said carefully. Oh, honey, Patricia's voice became gentle, patronizing. The doctors said you might have some confusion about things that happened before the accident. You didn't sign any contract. You came home upset because you'd had a bad day at work, and you started talking about all these business ideas you had. Business ideas? You know, those drawings and plans you're always working on. You were saying how someday you were going to sell them for millions of dollars. I guess I got frustrated because it seemed like you were living in a fantasy instead of dealing with reality. I felt rage building in my chest, but I forced myself to stay calm. She was lying to my face, and she was doing it so smoothly that if I didn't have Alexander's documentation, I might have started to doubt myself. Patricia, I need to ask you something. Of course. Did you call anyone yesterday while I was unconscious? Anyone related to my work or business affairs? Her smile never wavered, but something shifted in her eyes. Why would I call anyone about your work? You don't have any business affairs to speak of. I'm just asking if you made any calls on my behalf. Well, I did call your boss to let them know you wouldn't be in for a few days because of your accident. I figured that was the responsible thing to do. Anyone else? Not about work stuff, no. Although... She paused, as if something had just occurred to her. I did get a weird phone call yesterday from some lawyer. He claimed you had hired him for some business matter, but I told him he must have been mistaken. I mean, why would you need a lawyer? The casualness with which she lied was breathtaking. She was sitting there with flowers from our mother's garden, looking concerned and loving while lying about every single thing that had happened. What did this lawyer want? He was asking all sorts of strange questions about your mental state and whether you had family who could make decisions for you. I told him you were fine, and that if he really was your lawyer, he should wait until you woke up to discuss whatever imaginary business he thought you had with him. Did you tell him you had power of attorney? Patricia's laugh was perfectly pitched, surprised, and slightly offended. Power of attorney? Jen, honey, why would I need power of attorney? You're just in the hospital with a concussion, not in a coma. Besides, what would I need to make decisions about? Your checking account with $300 in it? Every word was designed to diminish me, to make me feel small and delusional. And if I hadn't had Alexander's evidence, it might have worked. I see, I said quietly. Jen, I'm worried about you. These fantasies about business deals and lawyers. The doctor said head injuries can sometimes make people confused about reality. Maybe when you get out of here, we should look into getting you some help. What kind of help? Counseling, maybe. Someone to help you work through whatever's been making you create these elaborate stories about success and money. I know it's hard being the only one in the family who hasn't really found their path yet, but making up achievements isn't healthy. The only one who hasn't found their path. While she sat there lying to my face about a $10 million contract. That's thoughtful of you to be concerned, I said. I love you, Jen. We all do. We just want you to be happy and healthy. And part of being healthy is accepting reality instead of living in fantasies. Of course, Patricia stayed for another 20 minutes, chatting about family gossip and telling me how worried everyone was about me. When she finally left, promising to bring Mom and Dad by later, I felt like I needed a shower. She'd been so convincing. If I hadn't known better, I would have believed every word she said. She'd taken the truth and twisted it just enough to make me sound delusional, while making herself sound like a loving, concerned sister. But she'd also confirmed everything Alexander had suspected. She had called his office. She had asked about power of attorney. And now she was laying the groundwork to have me declared mentally incompetent. I called Alexander immediately. She just left, I told him, and she's definitely lying about everything. Did you record the conversation? No, I didn't think to. Wait, actually, yes. I'd forgotten that Sandra had left the digital recorder Alexander had given me on my bedside table, and I'd turned it on when Patricia arrived, just in case. Excellent. That recording, combined with her call to my office, gives us a clear pattern of deception and attempted manipulation. What's our next move? Our next move is to be ready when she contacts me again, because she will contact me again, probably within the next 24 hours. She's testing the waters right now, seeing how convincing her lies are and whether you're buying into her version of events. And when she does contact you, when she does, we spring the trap. That afternoon, Mom and Dad came to visit. They brought more flowers, magazines, and the same performance of concern that Patricia had delivered. Dad sat in the chair next to my bed and took my hand. "Sweetheart, how are you feeling?" "Much better, thanks." Good. Listen, your mother and I have been talking, and we think when you get out of here, maybe you should take some time off work. Rest up, maybe see someone about the confusion you've been having. What confusion? Mom spoke up from where she stood at the foot of my bed. Honey, Patricia told us about the things you were saying yesterday, about contracts and lawyers and business deals. The doctors said head injuries can cause people to have very vivid false memories. Did they? Which doctors? Well, Dad said, we didn't speak to them directly, but Patricia did. She said they explained that you might be confused for a while about what's real and what isn't. More lies. Patricia was now claiming to have spoken to my doctors, who would never have discussed my condition with her without my explicit written consent. That's interesting, I said. I should probably talk to my doctors myself and find out exactly what they told Patricia. Of course, Dad said quickly. We just want you to know that whatever you're going through, we're here for you. I appreciate that. Mom moved closer to the bed. Jennifer, there's something else we need to discuss. While you were unconscious, some strange man called the house, claiming to be your lawyer. He was asking all sorts of questions about your business affairs and whether you had family who could help with financial decisions. What did you tell him? We told him he must have been mistaken, Dad said. We told him you didn't have any business affairs that would require a lawyer. And what did he say to that? He seemed very confused, Mom said. He kept insisting that you had hired his firm for some major business transaction. We told him that wasn't possible because you work in customer service at that little tech support company. I worked in software development at a mid-sized firm, not customer service at a little tech support company. They were systematically diminishing every aspect of my life and career. Did he say what kind of business transaction? Something about selling some kind of software, Dad said, shaking his head. We told him you don't know anything about software development. You barely know how to use Excel. I had a master's degree in computer science and had been developing software professionally for 8 years. The level of disrespect was staggering. Anyway, Mom continued, we told him if he really was your lawyer, he should wait until you were feeling better and could think clearly again. That makes sense. The thing is, honey, Dad said, leaning forward, we're a little worried that maybe you hired this lawyer during some kind of episode. You know, when you weren't thinking clearly. People with head injuries sometimes make impulsive decisions before the accident that they don't remember properly afterward. You think I hired a lawyer during an episode? It's possible, isn't it? Mom said gently. You've been under a lot of stress lately with work and everything. Maybe you got caught up in some kind of get-rich-quick scheme and hired a lawyer to help you pursue it. What kind of get-rich-quick scheme? Oh, you know, Dad said, waving his hand vaguely. Those things where people think they can make millions of dollars selling ideas to big companies. Patent trolling, I think it's called. They were reframing my legitimate business success as a delusional get-rich-quick scheme. It was masterfully manipulative. I see. The important thing, Mom said, is that we're here to help you sort through everything once you're feeling better. If you did get involved in something questionable, we can help you get out of it before you lose any money. That's very thoughtful. They stayed for another half hour, and every single thing they said was designed to undermine my confidence in my own memory and judgment. By the time they left, promising to come back the next day, I felt emotionally exhausted. But I also felt something else, determined. Because now I understood exactly what they were doing and why they were doing it. They weren't just trying to steal my contract. They were trying to destroy my sense of reality so thoroughly that I'd be grateful to let them take control of my life. They were trying to convince me that I was delusional, incompetent, and in need of their guidance and protection. And tomorrow, when Patricia called Alexander's office with fraudulent power of attorney documents, we'd be ready for her. The trap was set. Now we just had to wait for them to walk into it. The call came at 9:47 a.m. the next morning. Alexander phoned me immediately afterward. She did exactly what we predicted, he said, and I could hear the satisfaction in his voice. Patricia Martinez just called my office with a sob story about how concerned the family is about your mental state following your accident. She claims to have legal documents giving her power of attorney over your affairs, while you're incapacitated by head trauma and psychological delusions. Did she actually have documents? She claims to, but when my assistant asked her to fax them over, she said she was calling from the hospital and would have to send them later today. She wanted to discuss the urgent matter of canceling any business agreements you might have entered into while you were not in your right mind. My hands clenched into fists. What did you tell her? I told her that I'd be happy to review any legal documentation she had, and that I'd need to verify its authenticity with the courts before taking any action. I also told her that I'd need to speak with you directly to confirm your current mental status. How did she react to that? She became very agitated, said that talking to you would only reinforce your delusions, and that the family was trying to protect you from making any more Irrational financial decisions. More irrational financial decisions? Apparently, according to her, hiring my firm was the first irrational financial decision. She wants me to send you a bill for my services so the family can see how much money you're wasting on imaginary legal problems. The audacity was breathtaking. She wanted to use my own legal fees as evidence that I was incompetent. Alexander, I want to stop playing defense. It's time to go on the offensive. What did you have in mind? I want to file charges. Attempted fraud, conspiracy, whatever will stick. I want them to know that there are consequences for trying to steal from me. In the eyes? Are you sure? Once we take that step, there's no going back. Your relationship with your family will be permanently damaged. I thought about Patricia's lies, my parents' systematic attempts to undermine my reality, and the cold calculation behind their every move. My relationship with my family is already permanently damaged. They damaged it when they decided to try to steal from me while I was unconscious in a hospital bed. Now I want them to face the consequences. All right then, I'll contact the district attorney's office and begin preparing the paperwork. We have recordings, documentation, and a clear pattern of attempted fraud. It should be a strong case. How long will it take? For the initial charges, a few days, maybe a week. But Miss Martinez, I want you to prepare yourself for what's going to happen next. When your family realizes they're facing criminal charges, they're going to escalate their behavior. They might try to have you committed. They might claim you're a danger to yourself or others. They might even try to sabotage your recovery. Let them try. I have the best lawyers in the city on my side now. Yes, you do. And not just lawyers. Christopher Davis has made it clear that Technovision's full resources are at your disposal. Corporate security, private investigators, whatever you need. Why is he so invested in this? Because, Miss Martinez, men like Christopher Davis don't get where they are by allowing people to steal from their business partners. And also because he genuinely seems to like you. He said something about your software platform being the most innovative he's seen in 20 years. After hanging up with Alexander, I called Sandra over. I need to ask you a favor. What's that, honey? When my family comes to visit today, and they will come to visit, I need you to be here as a witness. I think they're going to try something desperate. What kind of something? I think they're going to try to convince you that I'm having a psychological breakdown. They're going to say I'm delusional and dangerous, and they're going to ask you to help them have me committed for psychiatric evaluation. Sandra's eyes widened. They would do that? Sandra, these people are trying to steal $10 million from me. Yes, they would do that. Okay, she said firmly. I'll make sure I'm here, and I'll make sure the attending physician is here too. If they try to make claims about your mental state, we'll have medical professionals on hand to contradict them. Thank you. She paused at the door. Jennifer, can I ask you something? Of course. How did you not see this coming? I mean, how did you live with these people for 30 years without realizing what they were capable of? I considered her question carefully. I think I did see it in a way. I think part of me always knew there was something wrong with how they treated me. But when you grow up with dysfunction, it becomes normal. And when people claim to love you while they're hurting you, it's easy to believe that the problem is with you, not with them. What changed? Success changed everything. When I finally achieved something significant, something they couldn't dismiss or minimize. Their true nature came out. They couldn't pretend to be supportive anymore, because my success highlighted their failures. So instead of being happy for me, they decided to destroy me. Sandra nodded sadly. I've seen it before. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love us the most are the ones who can't handle our success. Well, they're about to find out that success comes with resources they never anticipated. And those resources are about to be used to protect me and hold them accountable. That evening, just as predicted, my entire family arrived for what they probably thought would be their final manipulation session. Mom, Dad, Patricia, Robert Jr., and even my Uncle Mike, who I hadn't seen in months. They arranged themselves around my hospital bed like a tribunal, their faces set in expressions of loving concern that didn't quite hide the coldness underneath. Jennifer, Dad began, we need to have a serious conversation about your condition. Sandra stood in the corner, along with Dr. Peterson, my attending physician. I'd briefed them both on what to expect. I'm listening, I said. Sweetheart, Mom said, we've been talking to the doctors and we're very concerned about the psychological effects of your head injury. Dr. Peterson stepped forward. Excuse me, but I need to clarify something. No one has spoken to the doctors about Miss Martinez's psychological condition except Miss Martinez herself. We don't discuss patient information with family members without explicit written consent. Patricia spoke up quickly. We're not asking for confidential information, doctor. We're just concerned about some disturbing behavior we've observed. What kind of disturbing behavior? Dr. Peterson asked. Well, Robert Jr. said, she's been having elaborate fantasies about business deals and lawyers and large sums of money. She seems to genuinely believe these things are real. I see, Dr. Peterson said neutrally. And you believe these are fantasies because... Because we know her life, Patricia said. We know what she does for work, what her financial situation is like, what her capabilities are. The things she's claiming are completely impossible. Impossible how? Uncle Mike jumped in. Doctor, my niece works in customer service. She makes maybe $30,000 a year. She's never had more than a few $100s in her bank account at any given time. The idea that she signed a multi-million-dollar business contract is simply not realistic. Dr. Peterson looked at me. Miss Martinez, would you like to respond to these claims? I'd like to show them something, I said, reaching for the folder Alexander had left with me. I pulled out copies of my contract, my employment records showing my actual position as a senior software developer, my bank statements showing my real income, and the security footage of me signing the Technovision deal. The room fell silent as I spread the documents across my bed. These are copies of my actual employment records, financial statements, and business contracts. As you can see, I make considerably more than $30,000 a year, and I did indeed sign a legitimate business agreement worth $10 million. Patricia was the first to recover. Jennifer, these documents, where did you get these? From my lawyer and my employer, Joan. Honey, Mom said gently, head injuries can cause people to create very convincing false documents. It's a known symptom called confabulation. Dr. Peterson picked up one of the documents. Mrs. Martinez, these aren't patient-created documents. These are official legal and financial records. I can tell the difference between confabulation and genuine documentation. But that's impossible, Dad said. We know our daughter. We know her life. Do you? I asked quietly. Because according to these records, you don't know what I do for work, how much money I make, what my education level is, or what I'm capable of achieving. You've been systematically underestimating and undermining me for so long that you've lost track of reality. This is exactly what we're talking about, Patricia said, her voice rising. This is the kind of delusional thinking that's dangerous. She's so convinced by her own fantasies that she's created fake documents to support them. Dr. Peterson held up a hand. Miss Martinez, may I ask how you obtained these documents? My lawyer brought them yesterday. They're copies of originals held by Technovision Industries and my legal counsel. And your lawyer is? Alexander Thompson of Morrison, Clark and Associates. Dr. Peterson nodded. I'm familiar with that firm. They're one of the most reputable corporate law practices in the city. He turned to my family. I think we need to consider the possibility that Miss Martinez is telling the truth about her business affairs. That's impossible, Robert Jr. said flatly. Why is it impossible? Because she's our sister, our daughter. We would know if she was successful. The naked honesty of that statement hung in the air. They couldn't accept my success because it would mean admitting they'd never really known me at all. Dr. Peterson's expression shifted to something approaching disgust. So your position is that your family member must be delusional because her achievements exceed your expectations of her? That's not what we're saying, Patricia said quickly. It's exactly what you're saying, Sandra interjected. And frankly, it's one of the most disturbing family dynamics I've seen in 20 years of nursing. Uncle Mike tried a different approach. Look, doctor, even if some of this is true, the fact remains that Jennifer is not in her right mind. She's been acting erratically, making poor decisions, and showing signs of paranoid thinking. Such as? Well, she hired this expensive lawyer for no reason. She's suspicious of her own family. She thinks we're trying to steal from her when all we want to do is help. Actually, Dr. Peterson said, consulting his notes, hiring legal counsel to protect substantial assets while incapacitated is an extremely rational decision, and given what I've observed of this family's behavior over the past few minutes, a certain degree of suspicion seems warranted. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Doctor, Dad said carefully, we're just concerned about our daughter's well-being. Are you? Because from where I stand, it looks like you're trying to convince medical professionals that a patient with substantial assets is mentally incompetent immediately after she's suffered an injury that temporarily made her vulnerable. That's a pattern we're trained to recognize. What kind of pattern? Mom asked. Elder abuse, financial exploitation, conspiracy to commit fraud. The words hit the room like a bomb. My family's faces went through a range of expressions: shock, fear, anger, and finally, cold calculation. Patricia was the first to recover. Doctor, I think you're misunderstanding the situation. We're not trying to exploit anyone. We're trying to protect our sister from making decisions while she's not thinking clearly. By lying to her about her own financial situation? We're not lying. You told her she works in customer service when she's actually a software developer. You told her she makes $30,000 when she actually makes 6 figures. You told her she has no business contracts when she's just signed a multi-million-dollar deal. How is that not lying? Those are just misunderstandings. No, I said quietly, and everyone turned to look at me. They're not misunderstandings. They're deliberate lies designed to make me doubt my own reality, so you could steal my contract while I was unconscious. Jennifer, that's not... Patricia, I have recordings of you lying to me about calling my lawyer. I have documentation of your attempts to obtain fraudulent power of attorney over my assets. I have witnesses to your systematic attempts to convince medical professionals that I'm delusional. The room went dead silent. What recordings? Dad asked. I picked up the digital recorder from my bedside table. This one, for instance. I pressed play, and Patricia's voice filled the room. I did get a weird phone call yesterday from some lawyer. He claimed you had hired him for some business matter, but I told him he must have been mistaken. I mean, why would you need a lawyer? Then my voice. What did this lawyer want? Patricia's voice. He was asking all sorts of strange questions about your mental state and whether you had family who could make decisions for you. I told him you were fine and that if he really was your lawyer, he should wait until you woke up to discuss whatever imaginary business he thought you had with him. I stopped the recording. Would you like to hear the part where you lie about having power of attorney? Or the part where you call my $10 million contract imaginary business? Patricia's face had gone white. You were recording me? I was protecting myself from someone I suspected was trying to defraud me, which, as it turns out, was exactly the right thing to do. Dr. Peterson looked around the room. I think this visit is over. Miss Martinez clearly has full mental capacity and has taken appropriate steps to protect her interests. Unless anyone has genuine medical concerns about her recovery, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Wait, Mom said desperately. Jennifer, please, we're your family. We love you. No, you don't, I said calmly. People who love you don't try to steal from you while you're unconscious in a hospital bed. People who love you don't lie to you about your own achievements. People who love you don't try to have you declared mentally incompetent so they can control your money. We weren't. Yes, you were. And now you're going to face the consequences. I picked up my phone and dialed Alexander's number. He answered on the first ring. Alexander, they're here, all of them, and they just attempted to have me declared mentally incompetent in front of witnesses. Yes, I have it all on recording. Yes, I think it's time to move forward with the charges. I hung up and looked around the room at 5 people who suddenly understood that their world was about to change forever. You have approximately 48 hours before criminal charges are filed against you for attempted fraud, conspiracy, and financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. I suggest you use that time to find yourselves very good lawyers. The silence stretched on until finally Dad spoke, his voice barely a whisper. Jennifer, we're your family. No, I said firmly. Family doesn't do what you've done to me. You're strangers who happen to share my DNA, and strangers who try to steal from me get prosecuted to the full extent of the law. They filed out of the room one by one, their faces showing the dawning realization that they'd miscalculated badly. They'd expected to find a confused, vulnerable woman they could manipulate and control. Instead, they'd found someone who'd been documenting their every move and was backed by the best legal team money could buy. The war was just beginning, but for the first time since I'd woken up in this hospital bed, I knew I was going to win.